Lord, make me worthy of the men I serve, worthy of their loyalty and devotion to duty. Grant their simple wishes, Lord. Bless them, please. For in this world, no better soldiers breathe than these.
Warfare has evolved over the ages through techniques and technology spread through trade and conquests. Ever since man waged war in groups, the individual soldier, fighting with his personal weapon, has formed the basic building block on which the science of war has been built. The evolution of the infantry, in many ways, coincides with the evolution of warfare. The infantry is essentially an arm of close combat. In modern war, it is the infantry soldier who in the end plays the decisive part in the land battle. Infantry engages the enemy in close combat to seize territory and defend it by beating back attacks on it. The characteristic ability of the infantry to operate on all terrain, by day or by night, under all climatic conditions, its self-reliance and adaptability, its ability to hold ground, and its high degree of mobility make it ideally suited for this task. Everything else in war is supportive of this fundamental function. The efforts of the Air Force, the Navy, the artillery, the engineers, the signals, and the whole range of logistic services are all directed to supporting the infantry to fulfill this decisive task. An army is therefore considered only as good as its infantry. The infantrymen's weapons have changed from the swords, spears, and bows to an array ranging from the pistol to machine guns, mortars, anti-tank, and anti-aircraft rockets. Instead of pennants and flags to indicate his position, he uses computerized data from maps, satellite, and radio communications. He no longer stops fighting at night, as he can see through night vision devices almost as well as during day. What has remained unchanged is his ability to fight unaided. The infantry continues in all terrain and weather. It lives off the land if supplies run out, and the infantry soldier continues to fight with his bayonet and even his bare hands. In the Siachen Glacier, the infantry has shown that it can live and fight at altitudes of over 20,000 feet for weeks at a stretch. Its versatility and inescapable necessity in battle has made the infantry the basic arm on which all battle tactics are based. Heroism being a way of life with the infantryman, is it any wonder that of the total of 21 Paramveer Chakras awarded since independence, 17 have been won by infantrymen? Both the field marshals of the Indian Army have come from the infantry. The late Sam Manekshaw, the very epitome of the term, an officer and a gentleman, and Field Marshal Kippa Cariappa, the ramrod straight soldier from Coorg, who laid the foundation of the post-independence Indian Army. Today, the Amar Jawan Jyoti burns in all its magnificence as a handsome tribute to honor these brave sons of India, our fallen heroes, for whom no sacrifice was less for the love of their motherland. The contribution of the infantry is very emphatically and aptly substantiated by the message inscribed at the war cemetery at Kohima, When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. The battles of Badgam, Namkachu, Bumla, Srijab, Rizangla, Noshera, Haji Pir, Longewala, Siachen, Tiger Hill, Batalik and Tololing are exemplary Indian infantry combat actions. These battles and many such others are part of folklore and highlight the spirit, valor and skills of the Indian infantry. In October 1947, the 1st Infantrymen landed in Kashmir and repulsed the Pakistani invaders from the vicinity of the Srinagar airfield. It was this gallant action that reversed the tide of the battle, routing the invaders and saving Kashmir. This was the first glorious action fought by the Indian infantry post-independence, and to commemorate this action, 27th October is celebrated as Infantry Day every year. The Battle of Badgam stands out amongst many others as an example of the sterling qualities of the infantry and its leadership. On 3rd November 1947, a company of 4 Kumaon, led by Major Somnath Sharma, was ordered on a fighting patrol to Badgam in the Kashmir Valley and took up a position south of Badgam. The enemy, estimated at about 500, attacked the position. His leadership, gallantry and tenacious defense was such that his men were inspired to fight the enemy by 7-1. This resulted in the enemy being delayed for 6 hours, thus gaining time for reinforcements to get into position and stem the enemy advance. His last message to the brigade headquarters a few moments before he was killed was, "The enemy is only 50 yards from us. We are heavily outnumbered. We are under devastating fire. I shall not withdraw an inch, but will fight to the last man and the last round." On 23rd October 1962, during the Sino-Indian conflict, the Chinese opened a very heavy attack on the Bumla axis with the intention of breaking through to Tawan. A divisional-sized force advanced across Bumla, held by only a company of 1 Sikh. Hopelessly outnumbered, the company faced wave upon wave of Chinese soldiers. In the highest traditions of the Indian Army, the brave soldiers of 1 Sikh, led by Subedar Joginder Singh, faced the Chinese hordes with unwavering determination. When the ammunition of the defenders ran out, the remnants of this ragged platoon charged headlong into the advancing lines of the Chinese attackers. The Battle of Rizangla is a byword for gallantry. In a battle without parallel in the annals of modern military history, over 100 men of Charlie Company, 13 Kumaon, died fighting to the last man, last round at Rizangla, Chushu on November 18, 1962. It was only later that the nation learnt the truth about the heroic fight put up by these valiant men. The body of the gallant company commander, Major Shaitan Singh, lay in the open field where he had fallen, while personally leading a charge to relieve a besieged platoon post. In 1984, Pakistan had endeavored to occupy the Siachen Glacier. 2 platoons of the Indian infantry were heli-lifted to the icy and perilous passes of Siala and Bilafon La, and the remainder of the unit marched on, undaunted by the hazards of negotiating a 70-kilometer-long glacier at very high altitudes and sub-zero temperatures. These brave infantrymen soon entrenched and gallantly beat back the Pakistani attacks that followed. The infantrymen soon made this glacier their home. The high standards of human endurance and soldierly achievements set by him in fighting this undeclared war will be difficult to surpass. No other operation in recent military history has highlighted the continuing relevance and crying need for tough and highly motivated infantry than the Kargil operations. The tenacious and determined Indian infantrymen launched attack after attack on these extreme high-altitude mountain peaks to eject the intruders. Not just the nation, but the whole world watched in awe the televised images of the Indian infantry press home tenacious assaults up steep cliff faces and ice walls, unmindful of near certain death for the love of their country and the izzat of their paltan. The undisputed hero of the campaign was the tough, undaunted and dedicated Jawan of the Indian infantry. What they achieved in the mountains was an unparalleled saga of valor and sacrifice. Terrain conditions and operational imperatives of counterinsurgency operations have added to the infantry's share of soldiering. There is neither a front nor an enemy. There are no objectives to be captured. In the northeastern states of Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur and Tripura, the infantry has remained committed for many decades. From the late 1980s until the mid-1990s, the infantry was heavily committed in facing the challenge of combating insurgencies in Punjab, Assam and Jammu and Kashmir. In Jammu and Kashmir, this commitment continues. Imparting confidence to the people is not limited to war or warlike conditions alone. When floods ravage Indian villages or earthquakes devastate the land, it is the infantry that puts its best foot forward, saving lives and putting the world back on its feet again. India is proud to be one of the founder members of the United Nations and is conscious of its responsibilities in the United Nations peacekeeping operations. The Indian Army's participation in the UN peacekeeping operations spans a period of over 55 years, covering 29 UN missions, in which over 50,000 Indian soldiers, most of whom are infantrymen, have served in various parts of the world. Indian troops have taken part in some of the most difficult operations and acquitted themselves commendably. Professional excellence of the Indian troops has won universal acclaim. Today, India is ranked amongst the largest and most reliable troop contributor amongst member nations of the UN. It is this humane side of the infantry soldier, together with his ability to adapt to any condition, that has led to the infantry's participation in the United Nations peacekeeping operations. Wearing the blue caps of the UN, the infantry soldier marched for peace in country after country across the world. The repatriation of prisoners of war in Korea, operations in Congo, Cambodia, Somalia, Sierra Leone, Liberia and Lebanon, as well as the monitoring of the buffer zone in Gaza, the Indian infantry soldiers have played invaluable roles as messengers of peace everywhere. The Indian peacekeeping force that was deployed in Sri Lanka in 1987 comes in for special praise. The infantry soldier here were to combat the highly trained, wily and well-equipped LTTE, that is, Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. In unfamiliar terrain, faced with an enemy that was bold, reckless and hand-in-glove with the local population, the IPKF showed tremendous courage and sensitivity, making all-out efforts to ensure peaceful and voluntary disarmament of the LTTE cadres. The infantry soldier fights for the pride of his paltan or regiment. That is what keeps him going through all the trials and tribulations he meets. Once recruited, he takes naturally to the orderly ways of the army. He thrives on the unit routine and develops bonds with his comrades. He is wholeheartedly committed to esprit de corps, the spirit of comradeship and brotherhood of the brave, regardless of caste, creed or religion. The motto being, one for all and all for one. Esprit de corps goes together with the spirit of selfless sacrifice.
the tradition never to question, but to do or die for the three N's: Naam or honor, Namak, salt or loyalty to the nation, and Nishan or the insignia or flag of his regiment, which the soldier holds aloft proudly. The regimental center is the alma mater of the Indian infantryman. The new recruit joins the center, becomes a trained soldier, takes his oath of loyalty and joins his battalion. "20 years later, he returns to the regimental center for his release as a retired soldier. He returns home to strengthen the social fabric of the country. How are all these soldiers welded into one potent fighting force? The answer lies in one of the oldest sayings in the infantry: the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. Training, training, and more training. That is what every infantryman is always doing. When the infantry is not waging war, it is training for one. The infantryman is trained to live off the land, and his training ensures unmatched physical strength and stamina. He is taught the use of sophisticated weapons and equipment, bare-handed combat, and made to acquire razor-sharp tactical skills. Today's infantryman has all this and more, and it is imparted to him by the institutionalized training at the infantry school at Mao. The largest and oldest military training establishment of the Indian Army ensures uniformity of standards and the systematic grooming of junior leaders. This is where tomorrow's fighting man is created. In battle and out of it, the Infantry Officer Corps, an elite band of brothers schooled in the tactics of warfare and the etiquette of the drawing room, lead him right from the front with aplomb. The infantry does a lot more than just fight wars and win battles. In the Indian Army, when the infantryman is not fighting or training, he has time for sport. And here too, he leads from the front. From micro-light flying to mountain climbing. From athletics to adventure sports. The spirit that wins wars on the battlefield is carried on to the sporting arena. Here too, the qualities of competition, leadership, initiative and courage are celebrated in a display of esprit de corps. It is indeed a matter of great pride that the infantry has produced many sportsmen of international repute. Lieutenant Colonel Rajyavardhan Singh Rathore, who won a silver medal in rifle shooting at the Athens Olympics, is a fine example of sports training in the Indian Army. What does the future have in store for the infantry? The very versatility of the infantryman underlines his continued need and relevance in the 21st century. He can operate at extreme high altitudes and can function with equal skill in the burning sands of the desert or in the steaming jungles and swamps. Low-intensity conflict and war in specialized environments make the versatile infantryman indispensable. The Indian infantry today, armed with state-of-the-art 5.56 mm INSAS rifles and machine guns, Carl Gustav rocket launchers, automatic grenade launchers, flamethrowers, anti-material and sniper rifles, is very different from the infantry of yesteryears. Night vision binoculars, image intensifiers and thermal imaging devices turn night into day.
battlefield surveillance radars have been inducted. The tools of information warfare, far from making the infantryman irrelevant, make him far more lethal and effective. At war or in peace, at the country's borders or deep within, with the force of arms or with the power of personality, it is this infantry soldier, the gallant infantryman, who stands unwavering at his post. The spirit of the infantry, nurtured in the regiment, honed by training, tested in sport, and tried in battle, is what keeps him going in his quest for the glory of his army and the honor of his country.